Chapter 7 of Rump Gold means food. I tucked the gold beneath my blankets. The warm happiness I had felt at seeing all the gold fizzled as fast as snow on a hot griddle. Now I have a weighty, guilty, heart-pounding, sick-to-my-stomach dread. I didn't leave for the mines when I should have. I sat on top of the gold and thought of all the things that could happen. Frederick and Bruno might think I stole the gold. If they told, I could be arrested. I could go to the dungeons for the rest of my life, or even lose my life. I had to tell Gran. Gran would know what to do. But when she rose from her bed, she looked so old and tired, so pale and stooped, I couldn't tell her. Any more weight on those shoulders and Gran would crumble to the ground. And I had remembered that she had reacted when I first found the spinning wheel. She did not want me to spin, and now I realized it wasn't because I couldn't do it, but because I could spin more than thread or yarn. I could spin straw into gold. And Gran had tried to keep me from doing it. What kind of magic was this? No, I could not tell Gran, but I needed to tell someone because I felt heavy with worry, and I wouldn't know whether my worry was real or not until I said it out loud to someone. The only person I could think to tell was Red. When Gran wasn't looking, I removed the bobbin from the spinning wheel, wrapped it in a rag, and tied it to my waist. I didn't see Frederick or Bruno in the mines. Any other day, this would have made me happy, but today it made me anxious. The pixies swarmed around me more than ever. When I threw dirt over my head, they'd fly away for a minute or two, but they'd always come back. So I just let them crawl all over me, their tiny chant ringing in my ears, "Gold, gold, gold!" "Wow, look at him! Look at the pixies!" said a little girl working closest to me along the solace. "You must find hordes of gold." I didn't find a speck. When the sun was low, I waited for Red to come out of the tunnels. She had dirt smeared all over her face and looked cross. She walked right past me, but I still followed her. "What do you want?" she asked. "I want to show you something." "Well, show me then." I looked around wary, and "I need to tell you something." She walked even faster. "So tell me something." "It has to be someplace where no one will see or hear." I brushed the pixies out of my eyes, and where there were a few pixies as possible. Red scowled at me and kept walking, but after a while she stopped and turned back. "Hurry up, I'm hungry." I followed Red down the mountainside through the village. When we passed the mill, I got a cold prickle on my neck, like someone was watching me. I hurried past. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised when Red went into the woods, but when it was getting cold and dark, I stopped just inside the trees. "Where are we going?" I asked. "To a place where no one will hear or see, and where there are no pixies. This is what you want, isn't it?" Red folded her arms impatiently. "Is it safe?" I asked. "If you stay on the path and don't ask questions." "What path?" I looked down and my mouth fell open. There was a path beneath my feet, clearly trodden and winding further into the woods. I would have sworn it hadn't been there before. I have never seen it. But how?" I started, but Red had cut me off. I said, "Don't ask questions." I closed my mouth and followed. Red led us deep into the woods, much deeper than I'd usually go. She didn't seem afraid, though. In fact, she seemed more comfortable here than she was in the village. She touched the trees as if they were her friends. A bird fluttered down to a low branch and chirped as though she was saying something to Red, and I had the feeling she understood the bird, even though she pretended not to notice. "Do you come here often?" I asked. Red glared at me. Sorry, I wasn't supposed to ask questions, but questions were all that rose to my mind. The path curved and twisted. Where she was taking me and how much further was it? I bit my tongue to keep him in the questions. Then I started to hear something, a low hum. It got louder as we walked. Suddenly, we rounded a corner and came upon a giant fallen tree. The tree was swarming with bees. I froze. I saw Red thinking, of course. Bees and pixies don't like each other. So where you find a swarm of one, you probably won't find the other. But bee stings didn't sound much better than pixie bites. I stayed far back. Red walked right to the edge of the swarm. Slowly, like a creeping cat, she moved through the buzzing wall of the bees, reached her hand down on the log, and pulled out a chunk of honeycomb, dripping with golden honey. She moved back just as slowly. Bees crawled all over her head and her arms and even her face, but she didn't flinch. And soon they all flew away, back to their honey log. She broke the honeycomb in half and gave me a piece. Gold you can eat, she said. We licked the sticky mess. You could trade this for grain, I said. Probably lots. Well, you wouldn't want to, said Red. Why? She could get a whole sack of grain for just one chunk of honeycomb. Because some things people like to keep to themselves. This has always been my tree, and I don't want anyone else to know about it. If you tell, I'll punch your teeth out. It made me feel really special that she would share it with me. And don't think you can come here without me either. I won't. Promise? Promise. Even if I dared to walk this far into the woods alone, I wouldn't be able to get to the honeycomb like she did, not without getting stung 1,000 times. We sucked all the honey off and chewed the waxy comb. Then we licked our fingers. It was so sweet I almost forgot why we came here until Red pointed at the bundle tied to my waist and asked, "What did you want to show me?" I untied the bobbin and held it out for her to see. She glanced at it, then stared blankly at me. It was my mother's, I said. Red raised her eyebrows suddenly, interested. She was a spinner, from yonder. I looked at her confused. Yonder? Gran never told me my mother was from yonder, and she didn't tell me about the spinning wheel until I found the wheel. It made me mad that Red knew all these things and I didn't. How do you know that? How did you know she was a spinner? Well, some people know, she said, not looking at me. I could tell something, that she was hiding something. What people? Some people, she said, and her nostrils flared. The bobbin, I said. I think it's special. I didn't want to say magic. I knew how Red felt about that. It's just a bobbin, she said. But special, maybe. How's it special? What does it do? I chose my words carefully. I think it spins things differently, makes things change. Bobbins don't spin. They just catch whatever you're spinning. Then her eyes widened as though she suddenly realized something. What did you spin? Nothing, I said quickly. I just, what if you could spin one thing into something different, not just wool or into yarn? Such as, what if you could take some straw and spin it into gold? Red stared at me. I couldn't tell what she was thinking. We need gold. Wouldn't that be great? Maybe. She didn't believe me. If a cow can give milk, and chickens can lay eggs, and dragons can make fire, then why can't a magic bobbin make gold? Because the bobbin isn't magic, she said. But you might be. Me? Magic? No, I'm not. Using magic was one thing. Being magic sounded like a mountain of disaster. If anything changes to gold when you spin, it's coming from inside you, not the bobbin. How do you know? I'm just guessing. Well, maybe you're guessing wrong. Red sighed. It doesn't really matter where the magic is coming from. What matters is that it's magic, and magic makes you trouble. Your mother used magic to spin, and she got into a lot of trouble because of it. There's always a consequence for using magic. But this would be a good consequence, I said. Gold. Yes, and gold would solve a lot of our problems, stomach problems for sure. Maybe, and it's not like I want it all for myself. Red hit me on the head so I would stop talking. Those are just natural, regular consequences, Rump. There will be magical consequences too. Magic has its own rules. How do you know? Don't tell me it's just a guess. Red gritted her teeth. Didn't you learn anything from when you watched Kessler getting chased by every mouse on the mountain? But nothing happened to me when I spun. I didn't catch on fire or get attacked by mice. I just made gold. Fat skins of gold that could feed the whole village. I clapped my hands over my mouth. But Red didn't look surprised. Rump, she said in a soft voice. Does anyone else know about this? I sighed. Frederick and Bruno were looking through my window this morning right after I spun the gold. Red frowned. But, I went on, if only to make myself feel better, they probably didn't know what they were seeing, probably just looked like a pile of yarn to them. Red's frown deepened. That's when I realized what kind of worry I had. The worry that went from my head and sunk down to my chest and settled to a sickness in my stomach. Frederick and Bruno might be complete idiots, but any village idiot knows gold when they see it. The next rations day, the line at the mill was very long. Everyone was eager to stock up before winter came, and it was almost here. The air was biting now. There was always frost in the mornings. The pixies were more subdued, and they began building nests for the winter sleep. Now, we were just there waiting for the snow. When it was my turn, the miller gave me a sack of meal, bigger than usual. I looked at him, surprised. No one else got this much meal. Gold means food, the miller said gleefully. I looked at him, confused. I had found only a few pebbles of gold in the last week, and the miller wasn't kind or generous. I opened the sack just outside the cottage, and a thick, dusty powder billowed out. I choked and coughed as the dust went into my lungs. The miller had filled the bag with chalk and sawdust. Gold means food. The miller was giving me a message.